You selected the presentation for topic 4, engaging consultants, which is a part of the overall course, building industry contracts. The photo here has a bit of humour behind it and reminds me of a consultancy joke where the consultant asks the client for his watch. Once he gets his watch, he then tells the client the time and then charges him for it. Just a quick summary on the course requirements. If you want to contact me, you can contact me via email or the question and answer on the Moodle site. Use the forums on the Moodle site. Be very clear about the assessment submission dates. There's very little opportunity of getting extensions for assessments in these subjects. And if you do have to use the assessment extension request on the Moodle website, remember that this PowerPoint presentation is not a substitute for the study guide, the notes, and the resource and reading material. Okay, this is only a summary to help you further understand the subject of engaging consultants. Many consultant selection processes, I believe, are wasteful in time and resources. They fail to often fully the full extent of the work required. They don't fully cover that. The building industry has a lot of several standard agreements in place now with contractors, engineers, architects, quantity surveyors. And these can save considerable resources and time between the consultant and the client. So these ensure then that all the issues associated with the scope of works, the terms of engagement and payment have all been addressed. It's important that a consultancy agreement is formalised before any work commences. And where the initial appointment is made verbally, it's always followed up with written confirmation. I think it's a real failure quite often. Consultancy works can start without that written agreement, and it's nearly always likely to result in unpaid fees for work executed, and the client then receiving something very different to what he envisaged. Two big major signposts, I suppose you could call them, with conditions of engagement. One of them I've noted here as being ethics, and I think that's important with the process of all sorts of engaging people on board. That this it's carried out fairly and honestly. It complies with relevant legislations, and that there's good understanding of costs and fair payment for work that's carried out by both the consultant and the principal. The selection process must be concise and even in the pre-invitation stage that adequately defines what's required by the consultant for the project works. The issue of ethics, as I brought up earlier, is very important. You know, that all parties act fairly and honestly, and the costs and the amount of work and resource that goes into the consultancy is clearly understood, and that payment is made, so it's understood by both parties. I think a reference here for you to consider is the Australian Standard AS 4121. The Code of Ethics and Procedures is quite often a useful resource to refer to here. I've summarised here the selection procedures from the pre-invitation stage to the appointment of the consultant, and this process is it's a simple but very effective way of planning how you administer the engagement process of the consultant also. It's also important to look at those issues which a client might try to put into a consultancy that really are not possible or they're practical. And some of the items that I've highlighted here highest possible standard. What does that mean? You know, it needs to be really defined what the client's looking for from the when engaging a consultant. When you're looking at what that work is to be done, give it a grade, give it some industry measure. That's why Australian standards are quite often the best way of defining what it is that you want. That there's no other further interest in the works, insurances, that type of thing, notices of claims, that the process of additional work or changes or irregularities is conducted fairly. Any insurance cancellations, those type of things, that there's no clauses in there to sort of a situation which might put anyone at risk, and also the works themselves, that it's at a skill level that you're expecting the consultant to carry out, that it's far beyond their capability. And to summarise the agreement requirement, I've identified here as it needs to be in writing. Anything verbal, again, make sure it's in writing. Clearly define what it is that you want. The fee calculation, make sure that that's clear and that it's very representative of the work to be done. Hourly rates, so should what you've initially asked for, there's changes or things that have been added to it, that it's clearly understood at the beginning that that is the hourly rate. The client responsibilities, all insurances, the professional indemnity insurance, that's clear what's required. Copies of certificates, the amounts, that type of thing. Skill, care and due diligence, that's what you're looking for. Make that clear in the agreement. And written approval of the terms of the agreement should be also included. The approach of professional institutes, and I've put here three. There's others, but I've just chosen three for this example: Royal Institute of Architects, Engineers Australia, and the AIQS. And that's to sort of demonstrate that each of these and the others out there as well, they all have a clearly defined format and generic consultancy agreements in place already, which is very useful for us if we're likely to employ an engineer, an architect, or a quantity surveyor. And so the first point of call I always have when employing or engaging a consultant in one of these disciplines. We're at the end of the topic presentation now for engaging consultants, and it's a good opportunity now to read through the study guide, refer to the text and the reading material for this particular topic, and work your way through those workbook activities. If you've got any questions, post them to the group on Moodle, or contact the lecturer directly.